Hi, I'm Tyler Dunn here with LeRoy Butler down in Mobile, Alabama.
I actually played in this game.
You did?
You weren't born then.
What was that like?
It was a fun experience. I just remember there was a lot of emphasis, Tyler, on practice. I mean, most of the scouts, GM, and coaches, they were there watching the practices. And even when you got a chance to work with some of the pro coaches, the game was emphasized, but it was more so the practice habits and things of that nature.
Yeah, and really the scouts and GMs, they kind of clear out of here by game time.
Yeah, because they can watch it all on social media at that point, which they didn't have. But I guess looking at a guy's practice habits and his practice schedule, things like that, see, can he handle it? Especially if you're looking at a position like I was, a cornerback. Because it was always. I remember going through a one-on-one. I forgot who the receiver was, but I looked up and there had to be 40 scouts just watching intensely. Everybody was writing down stuff. People had stopwatches and stuff like that. And I said to myself, this is the big league.
Yeah.
This is the one game out of all the All-Star games, all 32 teams, at the time 30 teams, were going to be here, so I had to step my game up. And I thought, me personally, Tyler, going into that week, I thought my agent had told me maybe I was a fourth rounder. Because I wasn't real fast, wasn't real big. But coming out of these practices, I think I helped myself.
So this is a big week for Green Bay and a big offseason for Green Bay. I mean, they have to somehow get past Seattle and San Francisco. Everybody watched that NFC Championship game. What are the needs that Ted Thompson should address? And it really does kind of start right here in Mobile.
Yeah, you're right, Tyler. I think for the most part, people want to understand defense, you want to improve there. But if you go back to last year's draft, that draft was so rich with safeties. You thought maybe they would improve. So the Green Bay Packers chose not to do that. And instead, they were able to release McMillan, who was a fourth-round pick, and go through the season where they had no interceptions at safety. That has to improve. So obviously, safety is a position that they will look at, very hard. And you also, if you don't sign Sam Shields, you have to start developing another cornerback.
You can't start over at both spots, can you?
Well, you're going to have to add.
Yeah.
Because you can't. If you finish your roster at the end of the year saying, can we win a Super Bowl or compete for it? And you look at yourself and say, we can't, then you have to improve. I think for the most part, they don't know what they're going to do with all the free agents, which will get cleared up soon. But the defensive line, you got to draft a guy, Tyler, that's played in the 3-4 if you're going to keep that scheme. You got to draft a linebacker who's played in a 3-4 scheme. And if a guy hasn't played in that scheme, he has to be willing to do that. It's hard to get guys 280 and 290 to cover in the flat.
And obviously, they wanted more out of Morgan Burnett, but he's under contract.
I wanted
for a
more
while.
out of Morgan Burnett.
You did. That other spot, you have to think it's probably somebody different, somebody we don't know yet. What should they look for in that other safety spot?
This is the one area that I think draft and development may not work, because I don't know if you have the patience to wait for a younger guy to develop, because as you indicated, Seattle, San Francisco, Carolina, these teams are still getting better. So you can't wait. This is when you need to bring in a veteran who can work with Morgan Burnett and maybe bring out the best of him, like as the Packers did with me, Eugene Robinson, as I did with Darren Sharpen. So those are the kind of things that put you at another level. Otherwise, you put Morgan Burnett back there with another young guy, you may get much of the same.
I mean, there's a lot of raw guys out here, guys like the one at Washington State, physical, big hitter, but he didn't really cover a lot of players in college. So you might be right. Maybe it's a veteran. We're going to find out at some point here.
I think the veteran is the way to go. The guy understands, and you can get a guy that played in this system for the most part. And I'm not necessarily saying go out and get Julius Bird and pay a guy $40 million or whatever. But I'm saying getting a guy that has enough athletic ability that can cover in space, come up and make a simple tackle, they can help improve your team, and I think that's what they're doing.
Just to wrap it up, how close is this team to overcoming San Francisco, Colin Kaepernick?
I think if you look at the championship game and saw how physical those two teams were, the gap seemed to close, but I think it may have widened a little. Because the one player you're supposed to stop, Colin Kaepernick, you could not do that. So I think the Green Bay Packers, they're not that far off, but they're far enough off to where it's important to be here at the same
point. Hey, thanks a lot for watching, everybody. We'll be here a little longer in Mobile for Wednesday. For LeRoy Butler and the Journal Sentinel, Tyler Dunn.